Well, the man due to hand down his first budget in just over 48 hours is the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, and he joins me live from Canberra. Treasurer, thanks for your time. I wanted to start with paid parental leave. The announcement this morning, couples up to $350,000 in earnings will now be eligible. What's the thinking behind this? And wasn't this Josh Frydenberg's policy in his budget? I know they were 20 weeks, the coalition, and you're 26, but it's the same threshold.
Oh, what we're talking about is the biggest expansion to paid parental leave since Labor created it. And this is part of what will be a family-friendly budget, a budget which recognises that even though these global pressures come at us from around the world, its impacts are felt around the kitchen table. So central to a family-friendly budget is the biggest on-budget new investment, which is childcare, but also making sure that we get paid parental leave right, so that families can better manage their work and family responsibilities.
But wasn't this Josh Frydenberg's policy as well?
No, our policy is to extend it to 6 months. I mean, that's the primary part of our policy. The key part is to get it to 6 months in a timed and targeted fashion, to get there in a responsible way, to recognise that one of the big challenges that we've got in this country is we don't have a big enough workforce. And part of making sure that we can build a bigger, better trained workforce and so that people can earn more and work more is to get the combination of early education and paid parental leave right, and that's what we seek to do in this budget.
Treasurer, before the last election on this program, the Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles said that Labor's instinct was not to get in the way of the Australian people and a tax cut. So why in internal budget discussions were you seeking to do exactly that?
I'm seeking to have a broader discussion with the Australian people about the pressures on the budget, and there's no point ignoring some of these policies which have been legislated. I mean, I think that's something that you would expect from a Treasurer, to talk about the budget in its entirety and the pressures on the budget, and that's what I did.
Do you think the stage 3 tax cuts, in the way they are at the moment, are not fair?
I think the stage 3 tax cuts that come in still in a couple of years' time, they kick in at $45,000, and so they will provide some welcome tax relief when the time comes for people on those kinds of incomes. You know, I've made that clear throughout. But our focus in this budget is not on the stage 3 tax cuts. We've got far more pressing priorities. We need to provide responsible cost of living relief with an economic dividend. We need to have these targeted investments in a stronger, more resilient, more modern economy. And we need to start unwinding this legacy of rorts and waste in the budget. So those are the primary tasks for the budget. That's what we've been focused on. This budget will be more than battening down the hatches. It will be backing in families. It will be building a better future. And it will be trying to bring people together around these big economic challenges that we confront together.
Well, how many billions have you been able to identify and cut in terms of what you call rorts and waste?
Well, that will become clear in the budget on Tuesday night, but my colleagues, led by Katie Gallagher and other colleagues, have done a heap of work going through the budget line by line to making sure that unwinding some of the wasteful spending makes a key contribution to improving the quality of the budget and making room for some of our other priorities. And so people will see the fruits of that effort in the budget on Tuesday night. There will be substantial savings, but there will also be substantial spending restraint, taking a much more responsible approach to the temporary revenue upgrades that we expect to see in the budget in welcome ways, being more responsible about that, but also trimming spending where we can, also some multinational tax reform and tax compliance. But most of all, I think, showing people that you can have more restraint in the budget and more resilience in the economy. That's why the budget will be solid and sensible and suited to the times, and a key part of that will be our effort on savings.
Because you have been blessed by a lot more revenue, haven't you? People are talking about, Chris Richardson's talking about $100 billion over the forward estimates. That is something of a blessing. It must be difficult in a way to paint this picture of caution and gloom ahead when you're banking so much extra revenue.
Oh, I don't really see it that way. I mean, it is very welcome that we've got this near-term boost in revenue coming from higher commodity prices. We've got that going for us. We've got low unemployment as well. And I'm optimistic about the future of the economy. But even with that very substantial and very welcome boost to revenue over the next couple of years, it goes absolutely nowhere near making up for the bigger structural, persistent spending pressures on the budget. The fastest growing area of spending in the budget is the interest rate bill on the $1 trillion of debt that we inherited. But beyond that, we've got the NDIS and aged care and healthcare and investments in defence. And so these are the big growing areas of Commonwealth spending. It's a combination of either unavoidable spending or desirable investments in the future and in people. We've got to find room for that. And what we see in commodity prices and how that flows through to revenue, that will lead to a welcome improvement in the bottom line for the next couple of years, but it won't make up for some of these pressures after that.
And as unemployment rises, an extra $32 billion, I understand, over the next 4 years in social security payments.
There will be. You know, one of the big features of the budget is just under $33 billion in spending, new spending on pensions and payments. That is primarily a consequence of the indexation arrangements, which are an important part of the architecture of the budget. So an extra $33 billion on pensions and payments, about a third of that is the age pension, another third of that is job seeker. These are the consequences of a high inflationary environment on the budget. You know, we're used to thinking about some of the benefits to the budget from higher commodity prices, but there are swings and roundabouts in the budget. One of them is this extra $33 billion on pensions and payments, which are important, which we've found room for, but which are putting additional pressure on the budget too.